Hi, I'm Colonel Charlie Hobaugh, sometimes known as Scorch of the STS-129 crew, and you're watching NASA TV.
From Launch Complex 39 at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, this is Shuttle Launch Control at T-minus 3 hours and holding. We are now in the final 5 hours of the countdown for the launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis on mission STS-129. The countdown is being controlled from Flying Room 4 at the Launch Control Center, and we are on schedule for a liftoff targeted for 2:28 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the 129th launch of the Space Shuttle program, the 31st launch of Space Shuttle Atlantis, and the 31st visit to the International Space Station. This is an 11-day mission that includes 3 6.5-hour EVAs or spacewalks. Landing is currently planned for the day after Thanksgiving on November 27th at 9:43 a.m. And we see our commander, Charlie Hobaugh, an astronaut since 1996 and a veteran of 2 space shuttle flights, STS-104 and STS-118. And pilot Butch Wilmore, he's making his first flight. He's served here at Kennedy Space Center on the astronaut support team at KSC in launch and landing operations. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. And mission specialist Mike Foreman, veteran of STS-123 in March 2008. He has 378 hours in space, including over 19 hours of EVA time in 3 spacewalks. And Dr. Robert Satcher, Bobby Satcher, selected as an astronaut in 2006. He's now making his first flight on the space shuttle. And mission specialist Randy Bresnik making his first flight and also serving as an EVA crew member on mission STS-129. And Leland Melvin, having flown on STS-122 in 2008, and he has logged over 306 hours in space. Here are our 6 astronauts. Crew stopping for a brief moment to look up at Space Shuttle Atlantis. That picture is actually looking all the way from a camera on the roof of the vehicle assembly building. And they are now at the orbiter access arm.
And we can see Charlie Hobaugh coming in now. This is Charlie Hobaugh, also known as Scorch, a Marine Colonel, who's the commander of this mission. He's helped get suited up here by Travis Thompson, who's number 4 on the closeout crew. Travis is a longtime closeout crew member. He's been doing it for over half the shuttle flights, and he's helping Charlie get his harness on before he goes in.
And there he's being helped into his seat.
Is this the one that's going? Yeah, we can see here, as I talked about, you can see that there's both guys in there happen. That's Joe Akabe has his hand on his head there, and that's the astronaut that's in there. You can kind of see Drew's leg on the bottom there. He's going to get up here and start helping Scorch get everything all settled. And Joe's job at this point is essentially to help Drew. Drew is the suit insertion tech, is responsible for getting Charlie all strapped in and all set up correctly. And Joe essentially is helping him. You'll see him handing the parachute straps and the comm gear, help with the helmet. You saw him protecting Scorch's head as he got into his seat to make sure that we don't injure a crew member. So it's a very difficult process with these bulky suits to actually get on board and get in the right place. And so it really helps to have 2 folks.
Yeah, let's see who we got here now getting ready to board Atlantis.
Okay, we've got a couple of them lined up. Closer to the hatch there is Mike Foreman, and he's going to be the first guy onto the mid-deck. We kind of do a flight deck, flight deck, mid-deck as we go through because obviously it's very difficult to get more than one person strapped in at a time. So you can see George Brittingham, who's number 7 there. He's the insertion tech for the mid-deck. He's doing final checks on Mike, and Mike's going to be the first one onto the mid-deck. And you can kind of do the mid-deck in any order you want from the outside, either to the right mid-deck or left mid-deck first. The center seat has to go last because you have to go over the center seat. It's the mission specialist number 6 seat to get everybody on. Now, in this case, there's only 6 people because they're actually picking up their 7th crew member on board the International Space Station. So Mike's seat is actually the left seat on the mid-deck, and he has to go over the right seat on the mid-deck to get up there. So that's why he's going into the mid-deck first. So you can see him saying goodbye to Travis, waving to everybody, and getting handshakes from Jack Burrett and everyone else on the closeout crew before he goes on board. Okay, we're back on board the flight deck now. You can actually see Butch Wilmore getting in his seat. You can see it's a pretty involved process getting your legs down in there with the big orange suit on, the launch and entry suit. So you can see him getting down in position there. Once again, we've got Joe standing on the floor behind him. He's going to help get him in, as well as Drew will be standing on the mission specialist number 2 seat to help him get all connected up. So it's very important. You can see Butch here trying to push himself as far down in the seat as possible. That's very necessary to get the parachute on right and everything like that. And it's hard to push yourself into your seat because you're in the vertical. So getting yourself down against the seat pan is a very important thing, and you can see it's a little bit of a struggle.
Go ahead.
We have flashback to the white room here. You can see Leland Melvin, who's going to go into the number 6 seat, the second one downstairs on the right. I'm sorry. Bobby is going to the 2nd seat on the right downstairs. Leland came in. He's going to go on the rightmost seat on the flight deck. He's mission specialist number 1 going uphill. So he's actually going to go there. Once they're done with Butch and they're no longer standing on those seats, we'll get him across the mission specialist number 2 seat into mission specialist number 1 seat. Okay, so now we have Bobby Satcher going into the mid-deck. That means Mike Foreman's strapping is complete. It's a little bit easier on the mid-deck today, only having 2 crew members. So it takes a little bit less time. You got more room to maneuver down there because there's only 2 seats. So that goes pretty smoothly on days like this. The 3rd seat coming home is going to be filled by Nicole Stott, who's really the first member of STS-129. She launched on STS-128 back in August, and she's been on board the International Space Station now for a couple months. And she'll be the 7th crew member coming home. Great view of the white room here. The final crew member that goes on, it's always mission specialist number 2. They're always the last person on board. They've got that center seat on the flight deck is Randy Brezhnik, and this is Randy's first flight. He's a rookie on this flight. He's doing a couple spacewalks. He's also the intravehicular crew member on one of the spacewalks and doing some robotics work. So this is his first trip into space. Nice shot of Randy going on here, and you can see why he's the last crew member in. His seat was Grand Central Station for getting the other 3 in on the flight deck, so that's why he's the last crew member in. And right dead center, down the middle, he's the flight engineer that will help out the commander and the pilot as they go launch into space and also back on entry. And he's kind of the guy keeping track of a lot of the checklists and things like that. So
he'll be flight engineer for both launch and landing?
For both launch and landing, yes.
Attention on the net. This is the NTD conducting the launch status check. All stations verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC. OTC is go. TBC. TBC is go. PTC. PTC is go. LPS. LPS is go. Houston flight. Houston flight is go. Mila. Mila is go. STM. STM is go. Safety console.
Safety console is go.
SDE. SD is go. LRD. LRD is go. SRO. SRO is go. You have range clear to launch. And CDR. The crew of Atlantis is go. Copy, thank you. And Launch Director, NTD. Launch Director. Our launch team is ready to proceed. Okay, copy that, Steve. Thank you. I'll do my poll at this time. KC Chief Processing Engineer, verify no constraints to launch. No constraints. Thank you, Steve. Payload Launch Manager. Mike, the ISS ground processing team is ready to go. Okay, thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. KC Safety and Mission Assurance. KC Safety and Mission Assurance will go, Mike. Thank you, Mark. Range weather.
Weather is green on all constraints. Winds are from 335 degrees, 18 to 25.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. And Ops Manager.
See, Mike, MMT doesn't have any issues that we're tracking. Looks like a good day. You are go to launch Atlantis.
Okay, copy that. CDR Launch Director. Go ahead. Okay, Charlie, all the vehicle systems are outstanding today. The weather is near perfect for a good liftoff and flight today, and our RSS is retracted. So on behalf of the KSC processing and launch teams, I wish you good luck, Godspeed, and we'll see you back here just after Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Mike. We really appreciate all the effort that's gone into making this launch attempt possible. We know there's been a lot of people working some really long hours on weekends and long days with all the vehicles that are out there. We're excited to take this incredible vehicle for a ride and meet up with another incredible vehicle, the International Space Station. So with that, thank you very much for all you've done. And everybody across the country that's participated, we're ready to go.
Thank you very much, Scorch. Appreciate that. NTD, with that, you are clear to launch Atlantis. Copy. Clear to launch.
The countdown clock will resume on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark.
T-minus 9 minutes and counting.
GLS auto sequence has been initiated. GLS is go for orbiter access arm retract.
Atlantis OTC, the station is waiting for its spare parts, and Nicole is waiting for a trip home, so we won't keep you here any longer. Have a great ride to orbit and a fantastic mission.
Awesome. Thanks.
That was Orbiter Test Conductor Jeff Laufer from the United Space Alliance.
GLS is go for orbiter APU start.
ELT OTC, perform APU start.
That's the word.
CDR OTC, reconfigure heaters.
Caution and warning, memory clear, no unexpected errors.
I copy. In Atlantis, close and lock your visors. Initiate O2 flow.
Close and visors, initiating O2 flow.
Fuel cells now on internal. Terminating liquid hydrogen replenishment.
LH2 pressurization.
And the handoff to Atlantis's onboard computers. Atlantis now in control of the countdown.
20.
Firing chain is armed. Sound suppression water system activated. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis on a mission to build, resupply, and to do research on the International Space Station.
Houston now controlling. Atlantis begins its penultimate journey to shore up the International Space Station. Atlantis now in the proper alignment for its 8.5-minute ride to orbit. 4.5 million pounds of hardware and humans taking aim on the International Outpost. 30 seconds into the flight. Atlantis almost 2 miles in altitude, almost 6 miles downrange from the Kennedy Space Center already, traveling 500 miles an hour. The 3 liquid fuel main engines now throttling back to 72% of rated performance, going into the bucket, reducing the stress on the shuttle as it breaks through the sound barrier. 55 seconds into the flight, all systems operating normally, 900 miles an hour. The speed of Atlantis right now, 6 miles in altitude, 9 miles downrange.
Atlantis, go with throttle up.
Copy, go with throttle up.
The throttle up call acknowledged by Commander Charlie Hobaugh, joined on the flight deck by pilot Butch Wilmore, flight engineer Randy Bresnick, and Leland Melvin. Seated down on the middeck are Mike Foreman and Bobby Satcher, kicking off their work week with a Monday commute to orbit. 1 minute, 30 seconds into the flight. Atlantis 13 miles in altitude, 15 miles downrange, traveling almost 2,000 miles an hour. Three good auxiliary power units, 3 good fuel cells, 3 good main engines. One minute, 50 seconds into the flight. 10 seconds away from solid rocket booster separation. Booster officer confirms staging a good solid rocket booster separation. Guidance now converging. Atlantis steering into the center lane of Highway 129 en route to the International Space Station. 2 minutes, 20 seconds into the flight, 34 miles in altitude, 48 miles downrange. Atlantis traveling 3,200 miles an hour. Standing by for main engine cutoff. Main engine cutoff confirmed by the booster officer, standing by for external tank separation. And the bird's eye view from the external tank camera of external tank separation. Atlantis now in its preliminary orbit. Commander Charlie Hobaugh will now maneuver Atlantis so that cameras embedded in the shuttle's umbilical well can perform photography of the discarded external fuel tank. And Mike Foreman and Leland Melvin are about to use digital still and video cameras to capture handheld imagery of the tank for downlink a few hours from now. A flawless climb to orbit for the shuttle Atlantis and its 6 crew members en route now to the International Space Station.
Ohms 1 is not required.
This is Mission Control Houston, receiving downlink video that was recorded on board the Space Shuttle Atlantis immediately after the Space Shuttle separated from its external tank that was carrying the fuel and oxidizer used to power the 3 main engines as it launched from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at 1:28 p.m. Central Time today.
At the time of Atlantis' launch from the Kennedy Space Center, the International Space Station was traveling 220 miles above the South Pacific Ocean east of New Zealand. The crew on board the International Space Station had an opportunity to gather around one of their laptop computers and watch a video uplink of the launch. Jeff Williams, who soon will become the Expedition 22 commander following the departure of Roman Romanenko, Frank DeWinna, who's the current station commander from the European Space Agency, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut Bob Thirsk. Williams, DeWinna on the right, and Nicole Stott took time out to watch the launch and the climb of Stott's ride home, the shuttle Atlantis, from the Kennedy Space Center to orbit. Nicole Stott arrived at the International Space Station in late summer on the STS-128 mission. And again, she will be coming home as a shuttle mission specialist on STS-129, actually converting from her role as an Expedition 21 flight engineer to that of an Atlantis mission specialist at the time of hatch opening. This is the last use of the shuttle for a space station crew rotation activity. In this case, not a rotation, rather a depletion of the crew from 6 crew members to 5 crew members. The current launch schedule calls for the next launch of a station crew on a Russian Soyuz vehicle to occur December 21st from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. That will be an augmenting flight to supplement Jeff Williams and Russian cosmonaut Max Sarayev, who will be a two-man crew for a 3-week period during what is called the indirect crew handover time frame. The first such indirect crew handover coming up following the departure of Nicole Stott and the subsequent landing of Duena, Romanenko, and Thirsk in their Soyuz vehicle, with their landing in the TMA-15 spacecraft scheduled for December 1st.
And Houston, Atlantis, payload doors are open. Procedure complete.
We copy. Nice job getting the doors open there. And with that, you are go for orbit ops.
Thanks, Fergie. Go for orbit ops.
Houston, Atlantis, we are working on block 15.
We copy block 15. Mike, great to hear your voice.
And great to hear your voice too, Megan, and hello to the Orbit 2 team.
Thanks.
Megan, I'm not so sure you ever said it was great to hear my voice. I'm kind of half offended.
Charles, you are correct.
Oh, so we're going to be that way. All right.
This is Mission Control Houston. We're continuing to look at downlink television pictures live from the aft flight deck of the Space Shuttle Atlantis as it orbits over the southern Indian Ocean at an altitude of approximately 137 statute miles right now, following a successful NC-1 maneuvering burn to begin refining the shuttle's approach to the International Space Station for a Wednesday docking. We can see the shuttle's robotic arm being maneuvered by Leland Melvin and Randy Bresnik, working from controls on the aft flight deck, which is just forward of this location for the camera, which is looking past the orbiter docking system at the robotic arm as it is checked out.